Hello everybody and welcome back to a new mod showcase. Today we've got the From the Grave mod. It's a new mod which is not long since come out, and it basically is a additional support unit pack for the vampire counts, which is adding some really spicy looking undead boys to the roster for the vampire counts. So what I'm going to do is just quickly show you how to recruit them, where to recruit them, and then get into a bit of a showcase as to what the characters actually look like in battle, as well as an actual battle showcase at the end as well. So with that being said, if you haven't already, please do leave me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we are, I've just loaded up into a fresh Daddy VOD campaign. Let's jump into how to actually recruit them normally. So if you go onto the military recruitment tab here for any settlement, you see two new things here. So we've got the Chapped House here and the Abyssal Brood Vault here, which gives you access to your cavalry and monstrous cavalry choice. And then here we've got your more mainstream infantry choices. So we've got the Mortis Cell, the Mortis Vault, and then the Mortis Reliquary. This gives you access to all the normal infantry choices as well as your heroes here. You can also recruit your lords from the Vampire Lord section. Again, any lord will, any settlement will do, any province will do. There's no cap to these, so here's your Pale Monarchs here, and then here's your Flesh Reapers here. So exactly the same as any other normal lord recruitment, you can just recruit them off the get-go, which is really nice. And they're actually quite cheap in comparison. Like, these are really strong, and you'll see them in a minute when I get to covering them. They are really strong. Lastly, you can of course raise dead. Now, depending on where you are and what you're doing and what kind of battles have been fought, it depends on what you get. But as you can see here, straight off the get-go, you've got the Grave Marchers infantry, which are basically just zombies but a little bit better. So there you go. Some units you can recruit from the raised dead mechanic as well. So with that being said, let's actually jump into what they look like in battle, as well as a little bit of a battle showcase at the end as well. So let's get into it. Okay, so now that we've seen where to recruit them and how to recruit them, which is quite self-explanatory, it's a nice little easy mod to cover there in terms of recruitment. Let's actually have a look at character models and the abilities they've got to offer while actually fighting in battle. So we'll start off with the two lord choices, which we just saw a minute ago. We have the Flesh Reaper here on the right, and then the Pale Monarch on the left. So looking at the Pale Monarch first, he has access to an array of different spell choices. He's got the Law of Beast at hand, the Law of Death at hand, and of course the Law of Vampires. He's looking pretty stonky there with 100 armor, not nothing to scoff at. Really heavily armored. Leadership's looking pretty good. He also has Barrier. He's labelled as a spellcaster, armoured obviously with 100, and a melee expert, so don't feel like you don't have to get him into battle because he'll do quite well. Obviously, when it comes to his melee attacks, he's doing magical attacks with 70 melee attacks, which is really good, as well as having Wraithblade, which replenishes his barrier and does more damage to the enemy over time, which is really good as well. That's a really good ability to have on your melee attack. So don't feel like because he's a spellcaster you can't use him in melee. Get him in there quick. In terms of passives, he also has Causes Fear. Obviously being undead, he doesn't just rout away. Regeneration, missile resistance of 15%. He can hide in the forest and has spell mastery up to 100, which is really nice. He also has this bound spell here, which is Soul Rend, which basically wallops a little bit of lightning down and sets them on fire for 10 seconds there, you can see with the Warp Flame, which is pretty cool. So a nice lord to have in comparison to some of the others. Let's have a look at this boy now, the Flesh Reaper. So he's a little bit less armoured, obviously with his abs out there, a little bit less leadership, but has more in the speed department, a little bit more melee attack, and much more double charge bonus. So similar in a sense, but serving his own purpose. Obviously he can fly as well, so being able to fly over the front line and pick off some of the like artillery and stuff like that could be a really good choice for him. Actually looking at the spells he's got, he has Soul Rend as well, which is pretty cool. He's got access to Soul Rend. I'm looking at the boy. He doesn't have access to Soul Rend. I know he didn't. Let me get rid of that. I was hovering over him by accident. He doesn't have access to Soul Rend. Ignore me. He has access to this Bloodlust. As soon as I read it, I was like, no, he doesn't. He has a Bloodlust. So affects one ally in radius of 100 meters, which isn't too bad, and it gives them 25 base weapon damage 25 base armor piercing damage, as well as +5 melee attack, which is really nice if you get a heavy hitter, which I can think of one which I'll show off in a minute, which would be quite good to put this on. In terms of other abilities, he has obviously the Cause of Terror, Siege Attacker as well, which is really nice, so you don't need anything to actually attack a settlement, just this Lord will do. Physical resistance of +20, which is really nice, obviously can fly. He's can encourage other units by being nearby. Spell Mastery of 100, and he also has access to all these spells. Now again, in comparison to this one, they are a little bit different, but all the new lords and heroes have access in some degree to some kind of spells. So having a look here, he's also got access to the Law of Death, as well as the Law of Vampires, and having this summonable unit here, Command of the Unliving. I'm not actually too sure. I don't normally play Vampires all too much, so I'm not too sure if this is a generic skill. I don't think it is. This could very well be a new one. It could very well be an old one, but instead of summoning zombies, he can summon criticals, which is pretty good. But with that being said, let's just quickly skip on over to the heroes. Now that the lords are done, look at that. Oh, he just looks so cool. And all the effects he's got going off around him. Really cool. What? Sorry, he's back. Right, 2 seconds. Okay, kicking things off with the heroes, we've got this blind boy here. He looks so cool. He reminds me of like a Zinch demon, I'll be honest. But, you know, maybe heresy to say. Here we've got the Grave Seer alongside the Lich Disciple. As you can see, with both of them, they have their spells all the way full with all manners of different things they can use. Both having barrier as well, which is pretty nice. We'll actually start with the Lich Disciple just because it's on the left. So having a look at him, he's armoured, shielded and anti-infantry. So again, don't feel because he's a spellcaster you can't just wallop him in. He has access to plenty of Law of Vampire spells, pretty much all Law of Vampires. I think this Raise Dead mechanic might be the new mechanic, Raise Dead mechanic for this faction. This mod, which allows you to raise the base tier zombies. We'll show you that in a second. We'll show you them in a second. But this could very well be a new one because there's 7 uses of them, which is pretty cool. Cool. Not cool. Cool. Quite fitting now. In terms of stats, again, heavily armoured being there with 100 as well as a shield, which is really nice. Leadership, nothing to scoff at. Melee attack, 65, but having that Wraith Blade as well as magical attacks is going to mean that he's going to be pretty naughty in the battlefield. Building up his barrier and doing magical attacks is nothing to scoff at. Melee defense is pretty good at 55, weapon strength at 440, as well as charge bonus at 40. So a really strong hero, to be fair, to get straight in there. In terms of passives, this boy has everything under the sun. He's got the hunger, which heals him as long as he's in melee and his leadership is higher and broken. So he just gets healing, speed, missile resistance and melee attack, which is naughty. He also has Wraith Blade, which there builds up over time. The more kills he has, the more it builds up. Because of the Undeath, again, another healing passive. Which he has as long as he has leadership, which is higher and broken, and that he's casting a spell. Which basically he's got loads of stuff which just keeps him fighting. Immortal Will, another healing spell. As long as his leadership is higher and broken, and he has less than 50% health, he will get damage resistance +10. That's ward save, by the way, as well as 0.5. Healing per second, which is insane. Restores up to 10% health. Dark Benediction. He also has this passive or augment of an area, which will affect all allies within a 50 meter radius range. Jesus Christ, my tongue is all over the place today. Which will give them +5 leadership, +5 arm piercing weapon damage, and 10% flame resistance, which is really nice. So this boy is just bringing absolutely everything. On top of that, obviously spell mastery, encourage, hide in the forest, missile resistance +15, can cause terror, and he is undead, of course. So an absolute insane hero here with all of these abilities he can have. It is absolutely insane. Moving on here, we've got a Graveseer. In comparison, look at those stats in comparison. So less health, less armor, less leadership. He's a little bit faster, less melee attack, less melee defense, less weapon strength, and less charge bonus. Like considerably low. This one, out of everyone, I would actually say probably best not to get into melee. Keep him out of it. But in terms of this hero is definitely more of a generic spellcaster. Still alright stats. He's not going to be doing too much, but he's got barrier and he's obviously got those magical attacks and Wraith Blades. So he'll do alright to kind of hold off until this Giga Chad runs in. He also has access to Law of Vampires, which is going to give him obviously a nice variety of spells to be able to put down range. But again, in terms of models, absolutely beautiful. Obviously being eyeless there is quite hilarious. I love, he's just off for a little walk. I love it. But with that being said, that is the Lords and Heroes covered. Let's have a little gander at the new units we've got to show. Okay, so here we go with the first unit for From the Grave mod. This is your only tier 1 infantry choice available, which they are basically just reskin zombies, but looking absolutely beautiful in all of their bluey-eyed glory. Having a look at stats here, we have a pretty abysmal stat line, but let's face it, they're here for one purpose, and that is just blobbing and causing distractions and being a literal meat shield, as is their only quality in life. They come with an entity count of 160, so plenty of boys to blob up. Armour at 25, so at least some armour, not completely unarmoured. Leadership 35, nothing to run home about. Speed 25, melee attack plus 6. Melee defense plus 7, weapon strength, yeah, and then charge bonus plus 3. Absolutely abysmal. But these boys are obviously just going to be there to hold the line. They do cause terror, which is fear, which is really nice. Just while they're getting absolutely hacked to death. I don't know how many people would actually be that terrified of these. I mean, to be fair, no, they are pretty horrific. To be fair. But with that being said, that is your T1 infantry choice, literal meat shield to blob up and try and hold off the enemy while your other units, which I'll go into now, do the actual damage dealing. So let's head on to the tier 2 boys. A nice step up from the Grave Marchers here. Okay, so moving on to the first of the tier 2 units we have got over here, the Barrow Guards. A much better choice for you, obviously, for a frontline choice instead of what we've been dealing with as of late. We've got an armoured and shielded sword infantry. They remind me of something from like Lord of the Rings, I'll be honest, like Urukai, kind of. They look really cool though, nevertheless. Oh, sorry, I zoomed too far down there. Having armour 80 with shielded as well, given that actual protection is looking pretty nice. 50 leadership, speed 27, so not going to be obviously getting around the battlefield anytime soon, but doing alright for themselves. They have melee attack at 28, 36 melee defense, as well as the anti-infantry there for their weapon strength. So a nice choice, obviously fighting against infantry, looking really nice there. In terms of abilities, they don't bring all too much to the field, but they still produce that fear. So for a tier 2 infantry choice, a pretty nice, well-rounded one. Entity count of 100, so not too bad there. There are 4 units which are tier 2. We'll just quickly zoom over here to this next one. Cool thing about this, as you can see from the guy at the front here, unlike the other ones we've seen so far, this one actually has somewhat of a captain. So liking that, looking really nice obviously there with the captain. These are the Bone Hewers. These are armoured anti-infantry again, as well as frenzy. Having plenty of armour there, leadership looking pretty good, speed's not too bad. Melee attack at 38 with the Weeping Blade, which gives the person you're fighting basically half their armour, which is really good, having these get in there and kind of, if there's ever an armoured unit, knocking down 50% of their armour is insane. Melee defense isn't too hot because obviously they're not really bothered about the melee defense. They're more in there for a good time, not a long time. Do have the bonus to these infantry though, and an alright charge bonus to boot. They produce fear, as with every single unit here, are undead. They have devastating flanker, so if you ever were to attack an entity in the back, it would be insane. They hide in the forest. They've got the hunger, which gives them more health the longer they are fighting, as long as they are engaged in melee, as well as those buffs there, as you can see, the speed, missile resistance and melee attack. And then here they also have frenzy, so as long as their hit points are greater than 25%, and that if they are engaged in melee, they get all those buffs there. So this unit, as long as they're above 25% health, is going to be insane. And that's infinite. That's infinitely 10% weapon damage, 10% armor piercing damage, 10% melee attack, and 10% charge bonus, which is absolutely insane. So looking really nice, especially with the captain there in the middle, obviously looking a little bit different from the rest of his men. Absolutely loving it. Let's have a look at the third choice we've got over here. Obviously, all these are tier 2. That's a really good tier 2 unit. These ones, as you can see, offering a little bit of a different choice in comparison to the other tier 2 units. So these are the Grim Bulwarks, and as the name implies, these boys are going to be holding down the line for as long as they can. Armoured and shielded, they have anti-large, and obviously the charge defence against large foes, which is looking really nice there. When looking at their stats, they've got 110 armour. Absolutely insane. I don't believe these ones actually have a captain. No, I don't see one there. No captain there. So 110 armor, as well as obviously the shield to add that extra defense against melee. Range. And they have 50 leadership, which is pretty good. 23 speed, so obviously again infantry not going to be getting around. 24 melee attacks, so not a lot of melee attack, but that melee defense there, 44, is lovely. Literally, these are going to be here just to hold the line. They've got no other purpose apart from holding the line, and for tier 2 infantry is really nice. The weapon strength there at 22 with the bonus feast large, and then a charge bonus of 4, because they're not meant to be charging, they're meant to be standing still and being charged against, as you can see by their abilities. They cause fear. They have charge reflection, which as long as they're bracing, so they haven't moved for a certain amount of time, this unit will cause additional damage when attacking charging enemies. Hiding forest, and then the charge defense against large. So if you needed to get them in against large entities, you can. However, they'll be really good at just standing there and doing nothing. A really nice unit, and for tier 2 you cannot complain. Now there is one more unit which is classed as a tier 2, and it's a nice welcome to break up the theme of infantry, especially melee infantry. So here we've got the range boys, looking really nice again here. Again, something just rings out to me. Lord of the Rings, Shadow of War, and stuff like that. You know, just like, I don't know. These are called the Hollow Marks. Let's just kind of put them over here so we can actually get down and see them a bit better. Again, unfortunately, no captain choice here, but I don't think we need it. Looking pretty swanky without the captain. Looking really cool with the blue flaming tips there on the back as well. Have a look at the stats. They are armor piercing missiles, which is really good. Again, only tier 2. Armor piercing missiles, good range, and have an enter count of 90. Armor at 50, so not completely unarmored, which is really nice. Speed at 44, so actually quite fast for a infantry choice, a missile infantry. Melee, basically don't go into melee. Melee attack 16, melee defense 20, not great. Weapon strength 24. Charge bonus, don't charge them into anything ever. 4, absolutely abysmal. However, with ammunition count of 22, they have range of 140, as well as missile strength of 21, but have that armor piercing. It is going to be a good time for these. You've got to remember these are tier 2, so to have all these kind of good trade-offs, 140 range is really nice for a tier 2 choice. Again, undead, causes fear, hiding forest, and has the hunger ability as well, which is a bit of a weird one because it requires them to go into melee. So yeah, kind of wasted on them, but you know, in a pinch, maybe if you needed it, you've got it. But there you go, that is all the tier 2 infantry choices we've got to show you. Now, there are 2 cavalry choices. Our one is a bit more of a monstrous cavalry choice, and then we've got 2 more infantry choices as well. So let's jump into those last boys. 4 more boys to show off. Okay, so here we go with the last of the infantry choices. This is the Dread Marshal. Now, this unit is literally named after this one guy here. However, he does have his merry band of 79 other giga chance to go along with him. So looking really cool here. These are armoured and anti-infantry. These are tier 3 infantry choices. Here we've got 100 armour, 65 leaderships, 31 speed, so not as slow as the other infantry choices, but obviously not too fast. Melee attack being 40 is really nice with 34 melee defense, and then weapon strength there at 42. They have armour piercing melee as well as the bonus feast infantry, which is really nice as well, with a bonus to charge there at 28, which is really nice. These boys look absolutely beautiful, by the way. I absolutely love these models. Yeah, I can't even think what they're modelled after. Obviously, this guy is something completely different, but I can't even think what they're modelled after. But look, really nice. Maybe Wood Elves? No. Maybe? I don't know. Looking at the abilities though, he does have something a little bit different. So obviously again, he's got the generic 4 here, which most of the units have. But he also has something called Blood Greed, which the more kills he does, the more the intensity goes up. So it goes up to, for example, their charge bonus up to a maximum of plus 25%, leadership there up to plus 5, melee attack up to plus 5, and then he does also get immune to psychology as well as an unstoppable charge, which is really nice to have. So a nice tier 3 infantry choice there. Heavy hitters, quite fast for what they are. Obviously armoured, but not great. In terms of like obviously protecting against shields and stuff. Sorry, ranged and stuff because they lack shields. But a nice choice. Now there is one more naughty boy, which I would class as an infantry choice, but maybe not. And it is this boy. Look at him. I don't know. I just feel like the mod creator from the grave has like taken inspired orc concepts from Lord of the Rings. I'm just seeing like an orc here. I just can't help myself. Like Sauron's just taken the biggest, baddest orc and just sent him into the Total War gameplay. Like I just see orc here, looking really nice. This is your behemoth. He is a tier 3, really nice. Nothing goes above tier 3 here, so quite early access to a lot of these boys. He's a duelist and anti-infantry. Now this boy comes with absolutely boatloads of naughty things to have, which is lovely. So having a look at his stats, he's only got 40 armor, so ignore that bit. Leadership at 60, speed at 40, melee attack at 50, so good melee attack, and he also has disemboweled, which does more damage over time to the unit he's attacked. Melee defense at 40, weapon strength at 281, which is going to be really nice, as well as that bonus piece infantry, and a charge bonus of 40. Now here is where it gets spicy. So again, he's got the generic causes fear. He's also got siege tracker, which is nice, so he can assail walls with just the behemoth himself. Missile resistance of plus 10, but executioner. In a unit with the executioner will execute units in combat below a 20% threshold. So if you're fighting, and this is why he's good as a duelist, if you're fighting a lord and get his health below 20%, he'll get that little icon above him, and all he has to do is touch him once, boop, gone, executed, gone. 20%. Execution is such a good ability. If you ever get anyone with an execution ability, get them in there every single time. Because all they have to do is just tap him. As soon as their health falls below 20%, all they've got to do is just tap him, and they're dead, instantly dead. Such a good ability. Obviously, can hide in a forest, which is quite impressive for a man of that stature. He's got Berserk as well, which as long as his health is above 25%, and he's engaged in melee, over time his speed goes up, his melee attack goes up, and his physical goes up. Physical resistance goes up by 20%, or the melee attack there plus 20. And in stage 2, he gets more on top of that, as well as rampage as well. So all around, looking really naughty. To boot as well, he also has the hunger as well as with most of these units. Now, with that being said, that is the rest of the infantry choices. We've just got 2 cavalry-esque units to show off now, so let's quickly head on over to those and round this mod off. Okay, so here we go with the cavalry choices. Straight off the get-go, we have the Morn Guard Knights. Unfortunately, these boys don't have anything unique in terms of abilities. They've just got the generic 4 there, and unfortunately don't have anything to boot here either. No anti-large or anti-infantry, despite what I would say would be pretty good anti-large equipment here. To be fair, anti-infantry as well. They could, definitely cleave someone in two with one of them. But for tier 3 cavalry, it's not too bad. Looking at their armour, very heavily armoured, obviously being 100 as well as having a shield. Entity count of 75, which is pretty nice as well. Again, tier 3, so quite an early tier in terms of unit recruitment. Leadership 60, speed 75. So alright speed, can get around the map, but you know, obviously not the fastest cavalry. Where melee attack and melee defense at 32 respectively. Weapon strength at 42, and then charge bonus at 72. So definitely a heavy hitter, especially if he gets that charge bonus off. Be a nice unit to kind of bounce from place to place. But all around, a nice mid-average cavalry unit, obviously for the vampire counts. Unfortunately, I don't think there was a captain here as well. I like showing off the captain just because, like, aesthetically, it's very pleasing for me. Well, actually, I don't. Well, maybe actually, this guy has a cloak. Hold on, this ARAGORN. Sorry, I need to stop. I actually think this might be like the captain variant back here because no one else has a cloak on. So there you go. Maybe this is your captain speaking. Nice, loving it. There we go. I'm fairly adamant no one else has got a cloak on. Very, very much so. So there you go. Even the cavalry have a bit of a captain choice back here, a bit of a captain variant. I just love it. I feel like that's something which, when it comes to like aesthetics, just normal Total War is missing. So it makes me mildly aroused. Let's head on to the last unit here. And then we'll actually do a little battle just to kind of show them off in battle. So let's head on over to that. Right, here we go with the last of the unit choices available from from the Grave mod. Here is the Maya-born horror. Obviously, kind of modelled after, not kind of, modelled obviously after the Skaven variant of the Brood horror, whatever it's called. But looking really, really cool. And a nice choice. Now, I need a nice counter somewhere as well because I've said nice like a million times. A good choice, a viable choice. There we go. I do know other words than nice. But a great choice for the vampire counts, obviously adding that a bit of diversity, which they very much cannot lack at times. So here we go. We've got the Maya-born horror, which is armor piercing, very fast, and causes terror, which is really good in that sense of being very fast. 75 armor is really good. Leadership 60, speed 100, so actually faster than the cavalry choice we've just shown you. Melee attack 52, as well as that toxic venom, which is really good. So it gets rid of the healing modifier, as well as doing up to 15 damage for 3 entities, as well as 22 to 45 damage per second on the unit it is attacking, which is really good. Melee defense 40, weapon strength 350 with armor piercing, as well as having charge bonus 65. So this is going to be a great, just really being cautious here, not saying nice, a fantastic unit for the vampire counts to obviously enlist and get them sent out against their enemies here. Having a look at the abilities again, they've got the generic 2 here, or 3. Also, siege trackers are really nice. Obviously, if you're getting into a battle, you don't need to, into a siege, you don't need to actually build siege equipment. He is the siege equipment. He has frenzy, as well as regeneration, which is really good. Obviously, having that drawback of weakness to fire, but keep him away from fire, and he can keep on churning. With that being said, let him have a little scratch, and let's get into a little bit of a battle showcase. Let's do it. Okay, so here we go. We've got the forces of the Empire marching against us here. Just a little chaff army, just to kind of showcase you what it looks like in battle against these monstrosities. As they come into range, our archer's going to start shooting very soon with that extra range there. 140, I believe it was. Being able to absolutely pummel down line. Any second now, they should start. There we go. And the first volley, off it goes. Right, 2 of them shot. Hello? Anyone else? Oh, what? Change target, that's why. Psychopaths. Okay, we're getting into formation. We are outnumbered, but we vastly outdo them in terms of military prowess. Cavalry going straight in there. Look at that. Absolutely lovely. A jubbly straight in there. Nice charge. 3 kills. Nothing not too crazy, but alright. Unfortunately, they are getting absolutely slashed there. Here comes the Flesh Ripper. This is your Lord choice here coming in and laying some pipe. Whoosh! Wow, no one went anywhere. What? That was really underwhelming there. Please. Come on. Alright, he doesn't know what to do. Over here, we've got the infantry fighting here in the mist. These are your tier 2 infantry, the Hollow Guard, is it? The Barra Guard, sorry. Along with your Behemoth there. And your Spellcaster Lord. Looking really nice again. Oh, Jesus. Looking great. Obviously, you got your archers back there, still laying down pipe. And over here, we've actually got the boys routing. However, these are the zombies for routing, so we don't need to worry too much. We've got the bulwarks there, holding the line as much as they can. And the Dread Marshals going absolutely to town. Taking a little bit of damage there, the Dread Marshals, which have a tier 3 infantry choice. But 64 kills, so doing plenty of work there. We've also got the Maya-born horror there, just kind of bouncing around, doing the same thing against the general. Poor general. But in terms of the front lines over here, we've got the other hero choice here, doing all manners of undeadly horror work. I mean, Jesus. See you later. There goes the Maya-born horror again. Jesus Christ. Just bunny hopping through him. Sending foes and allies alike absolutely everywhere. He doesn't care. He's done caring. And there we go. The zombies are still withering away, unfortunately. But, you know. Oh, here he goes again. God, it just looks like a massive, like, rat. Not rat, sorry, bear. I was going to say bear. Obviously, it looks like a massive rat because it's modelled after a massive rat. It just looks like a massive, like, bear running on all fours, especially without the tail. Over here, again, we've got the zombies just kind of laying down some pipe as much as they can. And that's it. That's them running away in fear. Wow, the cavalry just coming in there. Jesus. Looking really nice, though. So, and of course, we couldn't end on him not doing it. He's coming back for round 2. Here he comes. Oh, God, that is a naughty, naughty boy. Cavalry as well, just sending everyone flying, but he is hilarious to watch run around the battlefield. The Maya-born horror, 104 kills. Don't get me wrong, this is only the normal swordsman of the Empire, but still, I just love how fast he can get around. Bearing in mind he was over here 2 seconds ago, and then boom, here he is. But with that being said, there you go. That is the From the Grave mod. If you haven't already, please do check out the mod in the description below. Leave me a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave suggestions in the comments as well. I love suggestions. It keeps obviously my brain going and the content churning. So if you do, I mean, he's down here already. Hello. So if you do have anything I'd like to cover, you'd like me to cover, sorry, feel free. I keep on saying feel free to drop it down below in the comments. With that being said, much love, and I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one. Bye guys.